welcome to the Crystal Crawford Show. Oh yeah, welcome to What Would You Like Your Life to Look at Like? What would you like your life to look like? And of course, you can hear it already. We are joined by my friend. Welcome everybody. Happy moment. I'll give you a minute to relax. Breathe deep. Allow yourself to receive from this moment. Drop everything that you had previous to this moment. Allowing the energy to just change your space. The energy of what I'm playing, the energy of what I'm being, the energy of what you could choose to be. What would you like your life to look like? So, I don't know about you guys, but my life's totally changed in the last week. I've had so many different people and things just drop out. I don't know that that is that new. I seem to kind of live in a constant state of change and fluctuation. If you're wondering, one of those people that dropped out is not Andres. He's definitely still here, still supporting, still being amazing. I will tell you that our level of potency has increased times a godzillion this week, so we're learning again how to be together. But that's being in a relationship. That's being with another person. But I tell you all that not just to riff at you, but to tell you that the timing of this new creation called the Energy Pull Lab is like perfect for me too. I was sitting with all of this last night, and of course, every time I do a show for you, I'm always kind of looking in my own world so that I can make it relevant, right? Like, I don't want to just be talking bullshit. I want you to have a conversation that I'm using, a conversation that I think is relevant. And so I was sitting with all this material last night. And when I say the material, I'm pulling from the book, Right Riches for You, and like applying that to my life, okay? So one of the ways that you generate something new in your life is by getting the energy of it. And that's not a new conversation to a lot of us. Like a lot of us think we actually know what that is. But I was sitting with this yesterday and I was like, okay, I did an energy pull last week and we're going to do another one next week, and we're going to do 7 days of energy pulls, and a lot of us have done a lot of energy pulls. Like, what's something about this conversation that's new for me? What's relevant about this for me? And so I was reading back through the questions that Gary Douglas gives us to start to get a sense of what could be different. And one of the things that hit me as I was going through those questions for like probably the 80th time, I think I've looked at these a lot, was that there was an ask in my world that I really hadn't acknowledged yet. Like, I actually wanted things to be more different than I'd ever even really looked at. And one of the things I'm gifting this week, or I'm inviting you to this week, is an intro call to this conversation called Where Did the Joy Go? And if you guys listened to my show last week, I talked a little bit about this, about how this conversation got stimulated for me of like, where did the joy go? So that's the call this week. You can check it out on energypulllab.com. And I was sitting with that again yesterday. I was like, okay, so what is it to really like get the energy of what I want my life to be like? Because this is the thing, right? Like until we are clear, the universe has nothing to contribute to. So the universe speaks energy, not English or another language, it speaks energy. So we have to be clear energetically about what we want our life to be like. And as I was sitting with this last night, I'm like, I don't think I'm very clear right now. Every single thing, this was a huge thing to acknowledge, and maybe you guys need to as well. Every single thing that I have gotten the energy of, I've created. Every single thing, I'm living it, I'm living it. But you know, like humanoid's middle name is more. So if you're a humanoid, and here's how you know, you judge yourself. So if you judge yourself instead of other people, you're a humanoid. Your middle name is more, so you always want more. So we're never satisfied, and we always want more. So I'm sitting with this last night, and I'm like, so I've created everything I've asked for. What am I asking for now? And one of the things I had to sit and acknowledge was that, number one, I wasn't clear. And number two, that I hadn't really fully acknowledged that what I am choosing and creating is the energy I want my life to be like, and that what I had created from like 5 or 6 years ago or 7, 8 years ago, I was living now, but I wanted it to be different. Now that sounds so simple, but the thing is, it is simple. It sounds simple because it is. So, but until you really sit and get present with, does your life look the way that you want? Yes or no? And if it doesn't, what would the energy be if it looked the way that you wanted? So as I was sitting with this last night with me, because I've done this a billion times, you know, I've led you guys through it, and I'm going to keep doing that. But I'm like, I want to really go through this next year for me, you know? So here's a series of questions that he has you ask. Hold on. I'm going to grab the book here for a second. So let's do story time for a minute. So he goes, there was a point in my life where I felt like I'd done everything. And I knew what my wife wanted. I knew what my kids wanted. I knew what my friends wanted. But I was like, what do I want? And the problem for most of us is that we're psychic beyond our wildest dreams, and we always know what everybody else requires and desires as their life. The difficulty comes when we misidentify and misapply what they require and desire and believe that that must be what we require and desire. Asking questions is the best way around this. And the first question is, what would I like my life to look like? So Gary goes into this thing, he's like, well, I'd like to travel at least 2 weeks out of every month. I'd like to make at least 100 grand a year. I'd like to work with interesting people. I'd like to do something that would change the world, and I'd like to do something that never bored me. And that was the sum total of what he came up with. So he got the energy or the feeling of what it would be like to have those things as my life. And I sat with this fresh last night, because I've read this before a million times. But I was with this last night, and I was like, I'm living the energy of, I did this for like 90, that's not even true. I did so many energy pulls like 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm living that life now. So that sense of dissatisfaction means I haven't gotten clear on what's next. So I was like, what's the feeling of what I would like next? And one of the things I realized was that I had created this very virtual life and business so that I could travel anywhere in the world, and I love it. But what's emerging in my world was this desire to have incredibly thriving, like large events, classes, like that energy of like big groups of people changing and thriving, essentially. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that it's already occurring. So here's the funny thing about energy that's super awesome, is that even when you don't consciously, cognitively know what you are creating, you're always creating. So it is starting to emerge as a thing, but what I realized is I hadn't really cultivated this as a new ask, as a new choice. So I'm like, okay, I do actually have a different rhythm that I want to have as my life, right? Like before it was really working to travel all the time and do all this online stuff, and now it's like there's something else, there's something, what is that? What's that? What's the sense of that? So here are the questions. He goes, consider for a moment what it would be like if just there were no limitations, okay? So let me see if I can play and read this at the same time. No. So ask, if there were no limitations, if I could choose anything, what would I choose as my life? Now, one of the things that's really helpful to me in getting clear, because, well, there's two things about this. Number one, when you first start asking a question that you really haven't asked yourself that much, or it's a fresh moment that you're asking, there's not going to be any information there yet when you ask. So I think this is worth mentioning about asking new questions, is like, these aren't for answers. You're not asking, what would it be like if there were no limitations, and then going to journal it. These aren't journaling questions. These are like, what would my life be like if there were no limitations? And you let it be there. And literally you just kind of let it be there for some days. Okay? If I could choose anything, what would I choose as my life? And so part two to asking a new question that I find really helpful is like, is what I'm choosing now all I want? Is it the way that I want it, or do I want it in a different way? Because most of the time as humanoids, we know what we don't want. And we're like, So if matter, energy, space, and time were not the criteria for my choice, what would I like to make as my life? So if it didn't matter about time, it didn't matter how much energy, whatever, it didn't matter how much it took, what would you like to make as your life? What's the sense of that? And what you want to do is take any pictures that come in, because sometimes we use our imagination, and getting the energy of something is different than using your imagination. So you can take the pictures that come into your imagination of different things you want to do, different events, and you want to get, what's the energy of that? If, for example, you take the example of like a large live event, for example. Some of you have been to big access classes, okay? What is the energy of that? When you walk in the room, are you running into people you just adore and love to hang out with? Are there people there just waiting to receive from you? Are there people there that just paid you money? What is the energy of that? And those are the energies you put into the ball in front of you, right? Another thing in my life, for example, is the energy of buying like a building here in Cali, for example, and turning it into an Airbnb hotel. But the energy of that is like the renovations and the planning and the working with them, all that stuff, like the activity and the interest and the, picking out beautiful things, and all of that has energy to it. So I put that in the ball in front of me. And then there's like, what do you want to be making a month, right? Like what's the income part of your life? What's the energy of that? And that, to me, like is represented by, you have to look at what if your income was raised, how would that be represented? How would that be represented in the bank? How would that be represented in your email inbox, for example? What's that energy? Not like looking at a stack of cash and trying to picture that into existence, because that's us trying to control a particular result. We're getting the energy of what's the energy of lots of PayPal notifications coming in, for example, and looking in your bank account and seeing an ever-increasing sum in your bank accounts. What's that energy? What's the sense of the people in your life? How supportive are they? How interesting are they? What else? What are the other adjectives you would use? What are some of the people that you just really love being around now? And you can kind of get a sense of what you enjoy, right? So what's that energy? And you put that into the ball in front of you. And do you have money? What is that sensation, right? Do you allow yourself to experience the sensation of having money? Some of you have never created that for yourself, and some of you have and have let it go, so you know the sense. But what would it be like if you had money and you just knew, and you just walked around the world knowing you had money? Put that in the energy ball in front of you. And what else? Now, to pull energy, first comes the clarity. And that's something you develop as you develop it. And you can develop it around different things. This is like our whole life. We're doing whole life energy pull, right? And then you pull all the energy of the universe through that energy ball in front of you, through you, until you feel your heart open up, like it affects you. And then you want to let energy go out to everybody that's going to contribute to making this a reality for you. Because you won't do it by yourself. And it won't be something you do. It's going to be something you follow. It's going to be something you gift yourself so that you can, as things come into your life, you can go, oh yeah, that. And as random possibilities show up, you go, ah, that matches. How do you know? You just know. Because you've made this energy so palpable in your world. And if it occurs to you to add other energies as you're sitting there, add them. Like, you want more joy, more gratitude, more of a sense of like, you know, what do you want to have as your life? You get to cultivate it and choose it and create it and have it. So what energy, space, and consciousness can we be to cultivate a reality beyond this reality with total ease? So you're welcome to a very impromptu taste of the Energy Pull Lab. The idea of the lab was like, I wanted to create a space where for not very much money, we could get together once a week and you guys could ask me for stuff, you know, like, what can't you quite get the energy of and you would like to be different, you know, like, I've been really using this tool for a lot of different things. I used it the other day to get my head out of my ass with money. I was lying in bed and I was starting to go into stress and worry, which I never do, and I did it. It was at the first of the year. And I literally like kind of body slammed my insanity, you know, and I started actively cultivating that sense of like so much money just coming into my world. And I shit you not, over the next week, I had so much money come into my world because I was willing to go, no, I'm not going to generate more of this energy, the stress and the worry, because that's what we do. We generate stress and worry and anxiety, and then we wonder why we get more of that. We're the source. So I changed it, and then literally every single day, all day, for like the next week, I was just like, I have money and I have more money all the time, and guess what occurred? I had money and I had more money all the time. And then another way I've really used this is when I was really struggling having a different relationship reality, and I realized that in my world, there was not even a sense of another possibility. That in my world, it was just presumed that relationships were hard. And so that's what I was creating. I was creating a lot of hard. And one day I sat myself down and I was like, what is the sense of like, when you're for each other all the time, like for ease and peace, like what's that? What do I want to have as my relationship reality? You know, like what if we woke up every morning and I was happier than the day before? Because that's a choice. It's not like anybody was like forcing unhappiness on me. It was my choice. And so I started doing that. I started like getting the sense of like what it would be like to be for each other and like happy for each other and supportive of each other no matter what. And it started changing from that moment. So I was like, what would it be like to have a lab where we could experiment with changing stuff, having stuff, pulling into our life what we actually like to have, but generating the energy so it can be real for us. If the only energy you've ever generated for yourself is heavy, you don't even know what lightness is. You don't have a reference point for it. But you can ask the universe to start to show you, and you can start getting a sense of it and actively participating in something new. Right now, that's what this tool is for. So this week is the kickoff, and there's 2 links above my head or in the description of the video. And one is an intro call called Where Did the Joy Go? So you can join that if you wish. You can join me right after that for a 7-day taste of the lab, where for 7 days I'm going to show up on the piano. And I'm going to ask you guys what you want and what you want to have a new energy around. And we're going to generate it together. And then you have the recording. And then next week on the 14th, we start. Every week I'm going to show up, and before I show up, I'm going to ask you, what's up for you guys? What can we create? What can we generate that's new? So everything that I've just mentioned is at energypulllab.com. And if you're on my email list, you'll be hearing about it. What would it be like for us to be willing to live the energy of what we would like our life to be so it can show up for us in totality? And everything that doesn't allow it, and all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions and no sex we're using, to absolutely refuse and reject our life and the energy we'd like our life to be, let's destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, puck, all 9 shorts, boys, poets, and beyonds. What would it be like to be the source in your life of ease? What would it be like to be the source in your life of glory? What would it be like to be willing to be gifted that? Would it be okay if life were too easy? Would it be okay if it was too fun? Would it be okay if you weren't alone? Would it be okay if the universe just kept giving you stuff? Would you be willing to be the source of something that miraculous? The gifts are already here, and the question is whether or not we'll receive them. And what determines what we can receive is what we're willing to be. And once we're willing to be what we'd like, we can have it. I'd love to have you, and I can't wait to see what we create. Bye for now.